Several people reached out recently wanting to buy homes here in Durango, and they all asked some similar questions. A few of those questions were around where can I find a home on the river like this, on the Animas River, on any river, on the Florida River, and so we're going to address that question in depth, discuss many of the different subdivisions where you can find homes on water, either river, lake, or be close to fishing access as well. They asked questions around the snow as well, around wanting to be at the lowest elevation possible, which is 6512 in town Durango, and then it drops a little bit. And so we're going to address the areas where it starts to climb up in elevation, the areas where you have a little bit longer driveways. As I get that question quite a bit, we're also going to address things like crime, what some of those crime stats are, and compare them to some other mountain towns, some other cities close to Durango as well. We're going to address things like distance to the hospital, distance to the airport, and then also compare that to other areas. So I'm really looking forward to kind of discussing a lot of questions that I get quite a bit from buyers moving here, and I hope this really helps you out. So let's dive into it. So the first thing I'm going to address is crime. So when I was pulling the stats for crime, really comparing other cities, I thought to myself, when I'm discussing these numbers, it's kind of hard to understand, like, is that a lot? Is that a lot of crime? Is that a little bit? It's hard to kind of understand. So that's why I wanted to compare to other cities, so you kind of get a good feel as well as compare to the national average. By the way, guys, if you're even thinking about moving to Durango, as much as we love shooting these videos, we even love more helping you with your real estate needs. So give us a call, text, email. Days, nights, weekends. Love to help you with all of your real estate needs. Also, as I mentioned in other videos, more than happy to put the drone in the air, give you an area or property tour, as well as hop on a Zoom call, kind of give you a good map tour and understanding of the area, particular to what you're looking for, what areas you want to be in. So forgive me, got to look down at my notes. Durango's total crime rate, that's including all types of crime, 33.2, and this is the most recent stat. So 33.2 incidences per 1,000 residents. I better reference where I'm getting this from. So I'm getting this from Durango's website, durango.gov, from their website. So again, 33.2 incidences per 1,000 residents. And then I'm going to compare that to some other towns around us. So Cortez, Colorado, which is about an hour west of us, 41.6 per 1,000. Pagosa, which is about an hour east of us, little over an hour east of us, 20 per 1,000 residents. And then Farmington, about an hour south of us, approximately 35 per 1,000 residents. So we are going to be the lowest except for Pagosa Springs. Also keep in mind, Pagosa is quite a bit smaller, so you're going to generally see that with smaller towns, at least what I've seen. And then the violent crime rate in Durango is about 2.6 per 1,000 residents. It includes crimes like assault, robbery, and rape, and 4.92 is your Colorado average. So we're about half of the Colorado average. Then Cortez, 4.5 per 1,000, Pagosa, 2 per 1,000, and Farmington is 5 per 1,000. So I know we're kind of getting into the weeds a little bit with crime rates, but I think this is going to help you a lot when I give you some comparisons to other areas. Wanted to mention, like, I can't legally say stuff regarding, hey, this area is just better to live in, without actually looking at crime rates and that kind of thing and stats, but I can say that myself and my family would feel personally safe living anywhere with a Durango address. We really feel like in general, we just personally feel safe, if I can speak to that a little bit. Now, the next question I get a lot is, how's the traffic and just the commute overall? So I'm going to encompass that with the flights, the distance to some major amenities as well. So the traffic overall is really, really good. Surprisingly, I'd say it's not that we really have much of a rush hour. We kind of do during that 5 o'clock time. It slows down a little bit for sure. I mean, but you're like 2, 3, 4 minutes difference from downtown Durango to, say, the west part of Durango or the east part of Durango. So it's not much different. You want to calculate a few minutes. It slows down a little bit in town Durango, of course. But the biggest difference, honestly, is in the summer. We're getting about 1 million tourists every summer, and it's really in the summer. Middle of the day, 2 p.m., noon, it might be pretty busy because you have so many people driving here to go rafting, to go biking, to go fishing, all of our different awesome amenities we have here. Everybody's coming, from Arizona, getting out of the heat from New Mexico, getting out of the heat as well, to Texas. We're just so centrally located here compared to all of these other hotter climates that we see a lot of people come in here, and that's really a big reason why you'll see a little bit slower traffic. But again, it's such a small town that it's not that crazy. Some of the other reasons you'll see it is just the construction. There's some construction going on right now on the roads, and so that's another reason you'll see slower traffic. So to get into some distances from things, Mercy Hospital, 13 minutes from downtown Durango, and then the airport is going to be 22 minutes from downtown Durango. I want to compare to some other mountain towns. So regarding the airport, Aspen's airport is about 16 minutes from there downtown, Vail about 39, Breckenridge about an hour 18 from Eagle County Airport, and then Steamboat Springs about 8 minutes from their airport. Telluride flies to locations using Denver Connect. So I just want to kind of clarify that a lot of these mountain towns are only going to either connect to places like Denver or only fly to some smaller towns, etc. So I'm just going to give you a quick list where Telluride flies. Alamosa, I'll just give you some of the big names. Alamosa, Chicago, Clovis, New Mexico, Cortez, Colorado, Dallas, Denver, Kearney, Nebraska, Phoenix, Thief River Falls, Minnesota, Watertown, South Dakota. There's a couple others, but just want to again kind of highlight that a lot of these smaller towns, including Durango, just fly to some bigger areas. So in the summer, Durango is flying over to Dallas, and then normally Durango is flying to Phoenix as well as Denver. Obviously those could change. And then of course we can fly private as well. And so let's talk a little bit more about just the traffic and what that looks like in a mountain town. Something else that I want to highlight about traffic is you really want to be aware of deer, of elk, of animals crossing the road. That's something my wife almost hit a deer just the other day. About a month ago, I almost hit a deer as well, and it could total your car. These deer can be really big. It can be very scary. I've seen, really bad car accidents from people hitting deer. There's so many deer here. So that's something else. And then on these highways, they're not very well lit. There's not a lot of light. So you just want to be cognizant again of that. And then again, it's kind of like Alaska or some of these other tourist destinations. You'll have a lot of tourists here looking on the side of the road because it's so pretty. So you just really want to be careful because I think there's a lot more distracted driving going on here. The other thing is in the winter, a lot of these distances to things like 22 minutes to the airport changes quite a bit, especially if you buy at higher elevation. So it changes in that we've got a lot of snow. You've either got to plow your own driveway or have somebody come plow your driveway. And then you've got plowing going on in your subdivision. Really, no matter what subdivision it is, even if you're in town at that lower elevation, you've still got ice, you've still got snow, you're still potentially waiting for somebody to plow if you're trying to get out the door early in the morning. So keep that in mind. The winter changes things quite a bit. Or I would say it's very different compared to all these other mountain towns. If you check out my winter or my weather video where I address the winter and all the snowfall amount, also one of the last videos I discussed all the snowfall amounts as well. We're somewhere around 3 times less snow than the majority of the other mountain towns because they're at such higher elevation. I had clients in town yesterday and we sat down and we were talking about Breckenridge. They were really considering moving to Breckenridge, but the home they were renting while they were just looking and enjoying Breckenridge and just kind of trying to understand the area, they were over 9,000 feet elevation. Where in town Durango here, we're at 6,512. Even if you go 15 minutes away from here, you're still at somewhere around 7,500 feet elevation. So we're quite a bit lower. We're getting quite a bit less snow, again, in comparison to a lot of these other mountain towns. All right, now let's talk a little bit about in-town Durango. So there are some awesome homes right on the river. As you see behind me, there's that home right there over my shoulder. And there's another home that I showed just recently for some clients that is right on the Animas River Trail. There's several homes that look right over the Animas River Trail, then also look right over the river. So it's pretty close to direct access to the river. It's a little bit steep to get into the river from there, but you can access it over at 32nd Street if you're in that area. There's a lot of homes, again, that just look right over the river near that bridge, as well as just living in town Durango, you're 1 to 5 minute walk or a 5 minute bike ride down to the river as well. So even if you're not right on the river, you're really close if you're living anywhere in town Durango. Now next is my absolute favorite area, and the area that I live in is the Animas Valley. And we're gonna also include Falls Creek Ranch, which isn't in the Animas Valley, but it's just over the ridge going west of the Animas Valley as the crow flies. So we're just gonna talk the entire north area of Durango right now. So let's start with Falls Creek Ranch. Again, that's not in the valley. but that's about let's call it a 15 to 20 minute drive from downtown Durango. And so a little bit longer drive. That was the first, let's hit on a few negatives first. That was the first negative from some clients that just recently came into town. They just didn't like how far of a drive it was. It wasn't super close. It kind of wasn't just outside of that 15-minute bubble, if you will, from downtown Durango. What I personally really love about it is it's got a really nice sized lake with a dock that you can swim in. You can swim in this lake, and it's got an area to put your paddle boards. It's got a nice sandy beach, 2 little sandy beaches, a really, really cool lake, and you're kind of forested in around this lake. And so it's not like some of the lakes like Lake Pastoris that's really south of town, where it just feels a little bit more desertous, feels just way flatter, not a lot of trees around, not a lot of shade. In comparison, this lake is just really, really pretty, really unique. The ability to swim, fish, paddleboard, kayak, do whatever you want for the most part on the lake is really, really cool as well. Again, in comparison to them, there's several other ponds and lakes where you can't do all of that regarding the HOA. To tell you a little bit about the subdivision, and again, I've got other videos where I talk a lot more about this subdivision, but to tell you a little bit more about the subdivision, you've got all 1 acre circular lots, and they want it to be kind of this communal feel where they've got a bunch of trails going throughout the subdivision. They've also got horse stables where you can keep your horses at instead of keeping them at the property. So you can't keep them at the property, but as you're coming into the subdivision, there's horse stables right there. The other thing I would say is there's not a lot of great views from this subdivision. You're kind of tucked in, fairly forested. If you really don't want forested, this might not be the subdivision for you. Most of the homes are fairly forested. There's some on the market. I believe there's one on the market right now with phenomenal views that kind of looks into the Animas Valley. So it's kind of perched up higher and looks into the Animas Valley, kind of on a cliff edge almost. Really, really incredible views. These home prices are usually over 1.5 million, 1.2, kind of in that range and higher. And then let's jump over to the Animas Valley. Let's start with County Road 250. So again, I want to mention, I'm just going to touch on these areas real quick, and then I plan to do more videos on all of these riverfront subdivisions and areas as well, if I haven't already done a video on these subdivisions. So let's hop over to County Road 250 over in the Animas Valley. What I love about this area is you're further away from Highway 550, so you don't hear much of the traffic from County Road 250. This area is fairly shaded. There's a lot of trees and phenomenal views from just about every home. I just sold a home, or last fall I should say, sold a home that was on the east side of County Road 250, so they don't have access to the Animas River from there, but they've got great water rights. And what was phenomenal about this home is they back up to one of the hiking trails. There's Stevens Creek as well as Halfling Creek Trail that goes all the way up Missionary Ridge. Really, really cool trail, looks into the Animas Valley. So I love that about this area. You're so close, no matter where you're at, even if it doesn't back up to the trail, you're so close to these amazing, amazing hiking trails with some of the best views of any trails, in my opinion, in this area. Then across the street, all of these homes, or the majority of these homes, have access to the Animas River, also have great irrigation rights. I have done a video on this area and talked a lot more in depth, but these are a little bit higher priced homes. You're seeing right now, homes in the $4 million to $10 million range, but recently there were a few that sold closer to 1.5, 1.2 is kind of the lower end that you'll see in there, but it just varies, just depends on the condition, size of home, etc. So to explain a little bit more about this area, kind of opens up, it's fairly flat as you go on to the west side of County Road 250, and more acreage. You're seeing closer to those like 10 to 20 acre range. There's one or a couple lots that are 35 acres, but most is closer to the 5 to 20 acre range in there. And then let's hop over to some smaller subdivisions. The Ranch, I've done several videos on this one, so I'll just touch on it a little bit. The Ranch has not a ton of homes in here. It's about 1 mile worth of road that takes you to all the homes, kind of this loop that goes throughout there. And then they've got 26 ponds. About half of those are stocked with rainbow trout every single year. Then they have the Hermosa Creek flowing through the subdivision, or to the side of the subdivision, that leads into the Animas River. You have access to the Animas River to paddleboard. You can take your paddleboards into there, paddleboard over to Dalton Ranch, which depending on the flow, if it's flowing like it is right now, it only takes about 25 minutes to get to Dalton Ranch. Park your car over there. So you've got some really cool amenities in there. 31 acre nature preserve with, again, the Hermosa Creek running right through it. Some really phenomenal views. Most of the homes are on ponds. And then if we hop over to the Cove, only a few homes in there, maybe 15, 20 homes in there, but a lot of them back up to another nature preserve, just like the ranch, which on the other side of that is the Animas River running right through. So a lot of the homes either have a view of the river or they can hear the river. So really cool subdivision there. Then Dalton Ranch, no homes in particular are right on the river, but a lot of homes are right on the golf course, which is right on the Animas River. So a little bit of an honorable mention in the sense that they're not right there on the river, but you do see the river from some of these homes. All right, now again, one of my favorite areas, probably second favorite from the Animas Valley, only because they get so much snow, so not quite ideal if you're gonna live here year round, is the mountain area. Now I did do another video on this entire area. We'll make sure to throw it up on the screen here, but the mountain area is really cool. There's two areas, there's several subdivisions that have lakes in them, and they're really, really gorgeous. Again, surrounded by trees, really pretty settings. One is fairly small, one's quite a bit bigger. So you've got Lake Purgatory, this one's a little bit bigger. It's on Columbine Lake. I'm gonna actually give you an address of an example of a home that recently sold, 559 Beaver Circle, which sold for $1.95 million. Just to give you an example, if you like this mountain area, if you're not too worried about snow or you're looking for just like a vacation home, this area would be absolutely perfect. I highly recommend checking out this area. Keep in mind these roads are dirt. Again, they get a ton of snow. They're practically across the street from Purgatory Ski Resort. You're over 9,000 feet elevation here. Really exquisite homes. Some of these homes are looking right over the lake. Some are backed up further where you can't see the lake, so keep that in mind. This dirt road climbs in elevation a little bit. Doesn't do a lot of like twisting and turning necessarily, and there's not a lot of like kind of cliff edge on this road. Don't be nervous about this road in the summer. In the winter, it does get a lot of snow. Now let's jump down to a home that's on your way to Lemon Reservoir. So we're getting kind of out of the mountain area, the north of downtown Durango, but this is kind of your lake area. So 14111 County Road 240. So this home is actually on the market right now. At the time of filming this video, it might be off the market when I release this video, but definitely worth checking this one out. Really cool because this area is all these homes are right on the Florida River. Really great fishing, really cool structure, really nice structure to this river. It's not quite as big as the river behind us, the Animas River. And what I love about this area is it's fairly forested. You are higher elevation again, so you're gonna get quite a bit of snow. I did get an estimate, a little bit of a tangent, but I wanna explain this. I did get an estimate for a client on this property in particular for paving the driveway. This driveway was about 300 yards approximately, and the quote was between 80 and 100,000, just to give you guys a ballpark idea. If you're seeing other homes that have driveways, for one, I've got a great resource, get you a quote on that, reach out, happy to do that. But as well as if you can go on Google Earth, you can get an idea of what the distance of, you can put a pin, get an idea of what the distance of that driveway is, and then kind of get an understanding of what it might cost. So maybe you could cut that in half. Again, it's super ballpark because it depends on the width, on what the road looks like, what the condition is, etc. But just to give you kind of a ballpark idea on that. This area, just jumping back to this area, really cool because it's on the way up to Lemon Reservoir and Vallecito Reservoir. Really cool area in that sense. The negative, if you will, and I was just telling some clients this the other day, is that it's fairly forested, and so you might not get, or you won't get nearly as much sun as you might in other areas like the Animas Valley where you don't have a lot of trees right around your home and you're not kind of tucked in. Again, don't cross this off the list. This area is really cool. There's going to be some homes that aren't really tucked in and really forested, so it just depends on the home in particular. Now let's jump down to south of town real quick. I'm going to kind of hit on a few areas again. I want to mention I'm going to shoot videos on these subdivisions and do a video on south area of, or we'll call it something like South Durango Riverfront properties, and a vlog tour of that area. So let's get into this. Animas River just in general is the first area I want to talk about, or homes on the Animas River that aren't in an HOA. There's quite a few that are on the river that aren't in an HOA, so keep that in mind. There's some on the market right now, so feel free to reach out. Happy to send you those. Then there is Florida River Ranch. This is, again, south of town. What's cool about this, just a few things about this: free propane and great irrigation rights. An example for you is 200 Thoroughbred. Again, that's 200 Thoroughbred. What's really cool about this home is it's on a good amount of acreage, but it kind of looks over the Florida River there. I can't vouch for the fishing because I don't know if they stock this area in particular. So how well it fishes, I'm not 100% sure on that area. But this area is just really, really cool. Very stunning homes in here. Just really exquisite. You're kind of in this like valley area, so it's very different. It's not super flat and it's not really forested either. And then you jump down to an area called Adobe Cliffs. An example for you is 478 Kiva Road. This one's at 3.15 million and it's on the market at the time of filming this. Again, feel free to look up that address. You'll kind of get a feel for it. And to explain a little bit more about that, fairly flat. It's going to feel, if you've been to New Mexico, been to Santa Fe, areas like Flagstaff, maybe not Flagstaff, but areas like Phoenix, Sedona, it's going to feel a little bit more like that. And so keep that in mind as you look at this area. It's not nearly as forested as you might think of when you might think of an area like Durango. Now, kind of on the south area, this is really southeast of downtown Durango, kind of on your way to Bayfield, but still south of town. This one's going to be kind of honorable mention, if you will. Fairly similar topography to what I just mentioned. A little bit more deserty feel, not as many big trees, not forested at all, kind of rolling hills a little bit. And this area is El Rancho, Florida. So this subdivision, in my opinion, is really cool because as you drive in, you drive over the Florida River, and then as you keep driving, to your right is a pond. This pond has picnic benches, like a covered area with picnic benches to eat, to hang out, and you can fish, you can swim, you can paddleboard, you can do quite a bit of things. It's not a huge pond, but it is a really nice pond as well. And then as you continue into the subdivision, most lots are somewhere around 3 acres. Not huge, but still a good size. And in my opinion, the HOA isn't really strict in the sense of you can have chickens, you can have animals, you can have horses, really just friendly area, friendly neighborhood, and it's still not a bad drive to downtown Durango. I don't have it written down in front of me. I don't have the exact distance. Home prices are quite a bit lower in this subdivision. I think there's one on the market right now kind of in that 750 range, pretty close to 750. And square footage on that one is somewhere in the ballpark of, I want to say it's close to 2,000 square feet. A lot of these are pretty nice homes overall. It just depends. There's some older homes in here, but let's jump down to the east area. So I'm going to start with Edgemont as just kind of a honorable mention again. No homes are on the river. If you see a listing saying homes are on the river there, it's not true, but they have access to a mile of the Florida River, private access for this subdivision. So really cool. And then it has access. Then as you drive just up the road from there, you've got Florida River Estates. This is a really cool subdivision. I absolutely love this subdivision for 2 reasons. It doesn't just have a river running right through the middle of it, right behind a lot of these homes. It's also got 2 really cool ponds. You can, again, paddleboard on, fish on. They're fairly shallow is maybe your negative, if you will. And the other negative is a lot of these homes, again, are kind of tucked in. So you want, if you're out of town, have me go by and shoot a video for you. I can give you an understanding of what the sunlight is, what the exposure to sun is in the home, how big those windows are. Because again, that's something that you just want to be aware of. And what's really cool is, again, the Florida River running right by a lot of these homes, not all of them, but by a lot of them. And you are at higher elevation. You're a roughly 7,500 feet elevation. So you're going to get quite a bit more snow, 50 to 100% more. Again, per the Weather Durango or Durango weather guy, when I asked him and I've looked at some of the previous storms. And then you got just the Florida River non-HOA areas. That is, just going all the way up north, kind of northeast area, and then going south of town, quite a bit south of town. Like I mentioned, that other property in El Rancho, or other subdivision, El Rancho, Florida. The other one, River Valley Estates, southeast of town. This is another cool one to put on the list and just keep in mind. Again, a lot of these subdivisions, I am going to shoot videos on a lot of these subdivisions in the future, give you a really good feel and understanding of a lot of these, go way more in depth as well. So stay tuned for that. Again, reach out if you have any specific questions. Happy to get the drone in the air and give you a personalized tour of any of these homes, give you a personalized walkthrough of these homes, open up cabinets, open up doors, give you a real good feel and understanding of any homes in particular. All right, now the next question I get a lot is, where can I buy a home where there's really good views? You might be perched up, you're looking out, you're getting kind of a distant view of some mountains or just a great view in general, and yet I still don't have a well or hopefully don't have septic. So not having those and having a good view, honestly, is fairly tricky. I'm going to start by saying that there's quite a few subdivisions where you have little maintenance, lower maintenance, but you still have that well and septic. Last year, sold a property where it's still forested, it's still kind of wooded, so you want to thin out those trees, you want to do fire mitigation, but besides that, you don't have barely any grass, you don't have much maintenance besides that. And there's quite a few subdivisions in areas like that, but it's trickier to find what my clients were asking for. No septic and no well and really good views. With those views, usually you're getting a little bit more acreage and that kind of thing. So let's hit on some areas though. The areas in the Animas Valley, or I should say subdivisions in the Animas Valley, are going to check some of those boxes. So one of those is going to be Dalton Ranch. Another one is going to be, which some of these I've already spoken about a little bit, but Dalton Ranch is going to be one of them. They're a golf course subdivision with a semi-private golf course. They are kind of close to the highway, so you're going to hear some noise depending where the home is. Another one is going to be the Ranch, the Cove, the Cottonwoods, some of those subdivisions right there on the east side of Highway 550 in the Animas Valley. Some of those subdivisions. There's going to be a bunch of handful of other subdivisions on the other side of the road on County Road 203. And as you can imagine, on County Road 250, where it gets bigger acreage, it's all well and septic. And then on the other side, County Road 250 and 203, both of those roads have quite a bit of bigger acreage lots, 1 acre all the way up to 35 acres that are going to be well and septic. So some of those subdivisions up there. Then as you get up north, that's really going to be your spot. Home prices are 1.5 and higher, really closer to that $2 million mark. Up north, closer to Purgatory Ski Resort area. Those areas, most of those homes are going to have phenomenal views, and a good handful of those homes are not going to be well and septic. So that's really probably going to be your number one area, followed by the Animas Valley. You've got ridges on both sides of you in the Animas Valley, so you don't really have those big mountain views from there. Whereas if we go out east of town, there are going to be some subdivisions in there that are going to have those views. There's going to be a lot that have those views, and a few subdivisions that are on central water, but most are not. So there's some Three Springs subdivision could have some good views, but probably not those big grand views you might be looking for. So that kind of southeast area, not a whole lot in there because you're going to have a lot of well and septic in there. As we get up east, the Edgemont subdivision, you have some views from, let's call it 5% of homes in there that are going to, again, kind of have those ridge type views in there, not big grand mountain views that you might be looking for. Again, as we get up further east, most of that area is all still fairly forested, so you're really not going to have much up there. So really, for the most part, let's call it 90% of the area of that east area you're going to cross off the list. However, there's going to be a few in there just peppered in, very small areas. Again, for the most part, most of these are going to have well and septic, but if we're just talking views alone, there's going to be some great areas like the Cliffs. These are all 35-acre lots. They do have well and septic, but those guys have phenomenal views. So just want to mention that while we're in that east area. Now when we go to the west area, Twin Buttes is one to put on your list. They have views, again, views of these kind of ridges. Really pretty, but not, again, your big, grand kind of mountain views. So I really think the Animas Valley and the mountain area as you get up towards Purgatory Ski Resort north of downtown Durango, let's call that between 16-17 minutes from downtown Durango up to about 40 minutes north of downtown Durango. That area, as well as the Animas Valley, really is going to be higher on your list for, again, no well and septic and having really good views. There are a few areas in town that are going to have those views and not on well and septic. Again, feel free to reach out for some specifics, and if you want to kind of critique or change your criteria from those basics, I can help you kind of dial in what you're looking for. The next question I get a lot is, where can I live where I can get the least amount of snow? You're still good with getting some snow, but where can you get the least amount? So I'm going to kind of give you the borders, the areas where it starts going up in elevation. So let's start with in-town Durango. In-town Durango is going to be just about the lowest elevation, where obviously you're going to get the least amount of snow in town. Then as you go south of town, it's going to go down in elevation just a little bit. So anything south of town, you're going to be pretty much good to go regarding getting the least amount of snow. Then from there, going north into the Animas Valley, it gets a little bit more sometimes, and then sometimes it gets less snow. Maybe it's like plus or minus an inch. I live in the Animas Valley personally, so I have a really good feel for this. Some days there's an inch more, some days there's an inch less than in town Durango. As you go up there, Baker's Bridge, if you type in Baker's Bridge is kind of the border of where it starts getting more snow as you go north of there. So as yours starts climbing in elevation quite a bit from that spot. And then as you go east of town, as you're getting really about 5 minutes from downtown Durango, it starts climbing in elevation from there, and you start getting quite a bit more. Once you get up to Ijustt, which is about 12 minutes from downtown Durango, that climbs in elevation quite a bit as well. It's about 1,000 feet higher in elevation. Then I want to elaborate on Ijustt a little bit. So I talked to the Durango weather guy, our local Durango weather guy here in Durango, and really they're getting about 50 to 100% more snow there. Again, they're a little bit more forested in, so it's going to be a little bit trickier to get that sunlight on your driveway. So you might be a little bit frustrated with that. There are some pros and cons of living there. And then let's talk about just continuing east from there. You just climb and climb and climb in elevation, so you continue to get quite a bit more snow. So if you're looking on the map, it's County Road 240, which turns into Florida Road. As you continue up that road, it just gets more and more snow. So there's a house I referenced earlier in this video. That home is going to get quite a bit of snow, fairly forested in. It's going to be trickier. You're going to want to plow. You're going to want a tractor or an ATV to plow as you get into those properties with a little bit bigger acreage. So we hit on the east area. Within 5-6 minutes, it starts climbing in elevation. Let's go over to the west area. So another subdivision, kind of to mark where it's going to start climbing in elevation a little bit. It's going to be Twin Buttes. You're really about kind of as you start getting, again, 5 minutes away from downtown Durango. You can tell once you get on that road, but it starts climbing in elevation. So as you get to a subdivision like Durango Ridge Ranch, where 35-acre lots, they get quite a bit more snow, fairly comparable to the Ijustt subdivisions. So they're getting anywhere from, again, 50 to 100% more snow. But again, I know I say this a lot, but you want to remember that you really want to factor in what the roads are like, how much they climb in elevation, how steep they are, and if there's kind of cliff edges on both sides or one side. You want to really factor that in. Again, I'm more than happy to drive these areas for you, shoot a video of it for you, of the subdivision, shoot a drone video of the subdivision so you can get a really good feel and understanding of what that subdivision is like that you're looking at or you're considering. Most clients find a home online, they send it to me and they say, what's this area like? And I'm able to give them a good tour and a good understanding of what those areas are like. Guys, if you're even thinking about moving to Durango, give me a call, text, email, days, nights, weekends. We've got your back when it comes to moving here to Southwest Colorado as well as New Mexico. Looking forward to connecting with you. We'll see ya.